The Denobulan Empire, under the rule of the tyrannical King Corvus, had long been the scourge of the galaxy. Their vast armadas, powered by advanced technology and sheer brutality, had subjugated countless worlds, bending them to the will of their oppressive regime. The Empire's reach extended to the farthest corners of known space, and their influence was felt even on worlds that had not yet seen their fleets in the sky. Earth, a relatively young planet in the grand scheme of the galaxy, had managed to avoid the attention of the Denobulans for centuries. However, as humanity expanded its reach beyond the confines of its solar system, it inevitably caught the eye of the ever-hungry Empire. The Denobulans saw Earth as a ripe target, a planet filled with resources and a species that, while technologically advanced, was still seen as primitive by the standards of the galaxy's older civilizations. King Corvus, sitting upon his throne on the capital world of Denobula Prime, eyed Earth with a mixture of disdain and greed. His advisors warned him that humanity was not to be underestimated. Stories had circulated throughout the galaxy about the resilience, ingenuity, and sheer willpower of the human race. But Corvus, with his towering arrogance and unshakable belief in the superiority of his empire, dismissed these warnings. He believed that the conquest of Earth would be a swift and decisive victory, one that would cement his legacy as the greatest ruler in Denobulan history. And so the order was given. The royal fleet, the pride of the Denobulan military, was assembled. Thousands of warships, bristling with weapons capable of laying waste to entire planets, were prepared for the invasion. The fleet was commanded by Corvus himself, who was determined to lead his forces to victory and personally oversee the subjugation of Earth. As the massive armada began its journey through the void of space, news of the impending invasion reached Earth. Panic quickly spread across the planet as humanity grappled with the realization that they were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. The Denobulans were not like the other alien species humanity had met in its brief time among the stars. They were a force of nature, a relentless juggernaut that crushed all who stood in its way. Earth's leaders convened in emergency sessions, desperately seeking a way to defend their world from the oncoming storm. In the midst of this crisis, Commander Dixon, a seasoned veteran of countless battles, was placed in charge of Earth's orbital defense network. Dixon was a man of few words, but his reputation as a brilliant strategist and unflinching leader was well known. He had faced down many threats in his career, but nothing like the Denobulans. As he pored over the tactical readouts, he knew that humanity was in for the fight of its life. The first signs of the invasion came when the Denobulan fleet entered the solar system. Earth's defense grid, a vast network of satellites and space stations armed to the teeth, detected the approaching armada and went into high alert. Alarms blared across the planet, and every available military unit was mobilized. Earth's colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn sent urgent requests for reinforcements as the Denobulan ships bore down on them. The first shots of the war were fired in the asteroid belt. Elite human commandos operating in small, agile ships launched daring raids on the Denobulan fleet. These commandos were the best of the best, trained for covert operations in the most hostile environments. They knew that their chances of survival were slim, but they were determined to buy Earth as much time as possible. Their ships darted in and out of the asteroid field, using the massive rocks as cover while they launched torpedoes and plasma bombs at the enemy. The Denobulans, caught off guard by the ferocity of the human attack, were momentarily thrown into disarray. But their confusion was short-lived. The sheer size and power of the Denobulan fleet soon became apparent as they regrouped and began to systematically destroy the human ships. One by one, the commandos' ships were picked off, their valiant efforts ending in fiery explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Yet, even as they fell, they managed to beam back crucial intelligence to Earth. The data they collected revealed the full extent of the Denobulan fleet's firepower and the capabilities of their advanced energy shielding. This information was relayed to Commander Dixon, who immediately began devising a plan to counter the overwhelming force arrayed against them. In the command center of Earth's orbital defense network, Dixon's brow furrowed as he studied the latest tactical readouts. The Denobulan fleet was approaching fast, and Earth's defenders were outmatched and outgunned. But Dixon was not one to back down from a challenge. He knew that Earth had one advantage that the Denobulans did not, the human spirit. Throughout history, humanity had faced impossible odds time and time again, and each time they had found a way to survive. This time would be no different. Dixon's plan was daring and unconventional, but it was the best chance they had. He ordered Earth's defense grid to focus all its firepower on the lead ships of the Denobulan fleet, hoping to create enough chaos and confusion to slow their advance. At the same time, he dispatched Captain Marcus Valdez, his most trusted field agent, to rally Earth's colonies and bring every available ship and soldier into the fight. Valdez, a man known for his calm demeanor and sharp tactical mind, knew the gravity of the situation. He wasted no time in coordinating the defense of the outer colonies, sending out calls for reinforcements, and organizing the remaining forces into a cohesive fighting force. As the Denobulan fleet drew closer to Earth, the tension in the command center was palpable. Major Jasmine Rios, Dixon's second in command, stood by his side, her eyes glued to the tactical displays. Rios was a battle-hardened veteran with a steely resolve that matched Dixon's. She had seen the horrors of war up close, and she knew what was at stake. Dixon turned to her, his voice calm but firm. "Rios, I need you to coordinate with our planetary bases. Make sure they're ready to repel any ground invasions. The Denobulans won't stop at just taking out our space defenses. They'll want to land troops on the ground." Rios nodded curtly and strode off, barking orders into her comms unit. Dixon then hailed Captain Valdez, whose holographic visage flickered to life above the command console. "Marcus, I'm counting on you to rally our colonies. We need every ship, every soldier humanity can muster." Valdez's determined eyes met Dixon's. "Understood, Commander. I won't let you down." As Valdez signed off to begin his vital mission, Dixon turned his attention to the brave pilots gathering in the launch bays. Among them was Lieutenant Emma Vance, a fiery redhead with a reputation for being one of the best pilots in the fleet. Her squadron, known as Angel Squadron, was prepped and ready to take the fight to the Denobulans. Vance snapped to attention as Dixon approached. "Commander, Angel Squadron is ready to give the Denobulans hell," she said with a fierce grin. Dixon clasped her shoulder. "I know you'll make us proud, Lieutenant. Watch your six out there." Vance nodded, her grin widening as she turned to her squadron. "All right, Angels, let's show these alien bastards what it means to pick a fight with Earth." The cheers of her squadron echoed through the launch bay as they prepared to take off. The tension in the command center was thick as Dixon watched the tactical displays. The Denobulan fleet had entered Earth's orbit, and the battle was about to begin in earnest. The skies above Earth's surface were soon filled with the thunderous booms of railguns and the streaks of energy weapons as the two fleets engaged. The human defenders fought with everything they had, their ships darting and weaving through the chaos, firing at the enemy with precision and fury. But the Denobulans were relentless. Their warships were massive, bristling with weapons that could reduce entire cities to rubble. They advanced steadily, their shields absorbing the brunt of the human attacks. In the midst of the battle, Major Jack Reeves and his Phantom team initiated their high-stakes infiltration of the Denobulan flagship. The Phantom team was made up of the most elite soldiers in Earth's military, each one trained in the art of covert operations. They knew that their mission was crucial to the success of the defense. The dropship carrying the Phantoms vibrated as it touched down on the massive Denobulan command ship. With practiced efficiency, the team breached an airlock and infiltrated the alien vessel. The corridors were dimly lit, and the air was thick with the scent of ozone and burning metal. The Phantoms moved swiftly, their weapons at the ready. Sergeant Elena Ramirez, one of the Phantom's most skilled engineers, planted explosive charges at key junctions while the others sabotaged vital systems. "Charges set in engineering," Corporal Chen reported over the comms. "Their warp core is going to have a real bad day." Reeves nodded, his eyes gleaming beneath his helmet's visor. "Good work. Let's move out." As they made their way back to the extraction point, alien shouts echoed down the hallway. A contingent of Denobulan guards, led by a towering figure in ornate armor, rounded the corner. "Intruders!" the commander bellowed, raising a wicked-looking plasma rifle. The corridor erupted in a storm of weapons fire as the Phantoms took cover behind bulkheads, returning fire with deadly precision. "Fall back to the extraction point," Reeves ordered, his voice calm and steady. The team retreated, covering each other's movements with suppressing fire. Ramirez stood her ground, her rifle spitting death at the advancing denobulans. One by one, they fell to her pinpoint accuracy. The denobulan commander roared in frustration, unable to break through the humans' defense. In Earth orbit, Lieutenant Emma Vance led her Angel Squadron in a series of lightning raids against the denobulan fleet. The human starfighters struck with the precision of a surgeon, their advanced weapons tearing through the denobulan shields. Vance's targeting computer locked onto a cruiser's exposed reactor, and with a press of a button, she unleashed a salvo of missiles. The denobulan ship vanished in a blinding fireball, taking 2 nearby destroyers with it. "Nice shooting, Lieutenant!" Her wingman cheered over the comms. Vance smirked, her eyes scanning the tactical readout. "Stay focused. We've got more bogies inbound at 3 o'clock. The battle continued to rage, with both sides taking heavy losses. But even as the human defenders fought with everything they had, it was clear that the denobulans were gaining the upper hand. The sheer size and firepower of their fleet was overwhelming, and Earth's defenders were being pushed to the brink. In the heart of the denobulan flagship, King Corvus sat on his throne, watching the battle unfold on the view screens. His eyes were cold and calculating as he observed the human defenders' desperate attempts to hold the line. His daughter, Princess Zara, stood nearby, her expression tense. "Father," she began, choosing her words carefully, "their capabilities." Corvus waved a dismissive hand, not even sparing his daughter a glance. "Nonsense, girl. These primates are primitives, hardly more than beasts. They will be crushed like insects beneath my boot." But Zara persisted, her voice tinged with concern. "Father, their technologies are more advanced than we anticipated. We should reconsider our approach." Corvus's eyes flashed with anger as he turned to face his daughter. "Enough! I will not be questioned by a mere child. Remember your place, whelp." Zara fell silent, her cheeks burning with humiliation and suppressed anger. As Corvus turned back to his displays, chuckling at his own bullying might, the seeds of doubt and resentment settled deep in the princess's heart. Unseen by any, Zara's fingers clenched into fists. Her father's arrogance and cruelty would be his undoing, she vowed silently. One way or another, the human rebels would find an unlikely ally within the denobulan court itself. The thunderous boom of railguns signaled the start of humanity's desperate defense, as denobulan warships pushed deeper into the solar system. Major Jack Reeves and his Phantom team initiated their high-stakes infiltration, targeting the enemy flagship with surgical precision. The denobulan ship shuddered under the assault, its systems failing one by one as the Phantom's charges detonated. But even as the humans pressed their advantage, the battle was far from won. On Earth, Commander Dixon received an urgent transmission from Ambassador Zan Thari. "Commander, our intelligence network has found a weakness in the denobulan fleet's formation. If we can exploit it, we may gain a critical advantage." Dixon leaned forward intently. "I'm all ears, Ambassador. What have you got?" The two strategists pored over the data, analyzing the denobulan movements and formations. Together, they devised a daring infiltration plan targeting the enemy flagship. Dixon knew that this plan was risky, but it was their best shot at turning the tide of the battle. As the Phantom silently departed to prepare for their crucial assignment, Dixon turned his attention to the brave pilots gathering in the launch bays. He spotted Lieutenant Emma Vance among them, her fiery red hair a beacon amid the sea of flight suits. Vance snapped to attention as Dixon approached. "Commander, Angel Squadron is prepped and ready to give the denobulans hell." Dixon nodded, his voice ringing with conviction. "I know you'll make us proud, Lieutenant." "Watch your six out there." Vance grinned, her eyes gleaming with determination. "You got it, sir. Let's show these alien bastards what it means to pick a fight with Earth." The roar of the launch bays echoed through the command center as Angel Squadron took to the skies. The battle in orbit intensified, with both sides fighting with everything they had. The denobulan fleet, though larger and more powerful, was being pushed back by the sheer tenacity and ingenuity of the human defenders. The first signs of weakness in the denobulan fleet became apparent when one of their flagship cruisers was destroyed by a concentrated attack from Angel Squadron. The explosion rocked the battlefield, sending shock waves through the ranks of the denobulan forces. The human defenders cheered as the tide of the battle began to shift in their favor. But the denobulans were not defeated yet. King Corvus, enraged by the loss of one of his prized ships, ordered his remaining forces to regroup and launch a full-scale assault on Earth's orbital defenses. The battle reached a fever pitch as the Denobulans unleashed their most devastating weapons. Earth's defense grid was pushed to its limits as energy beams, plasma bombs, and railgun slugs crisscrossed the void, creating a maelstrom of destruction. The skies above Earth were lit up with the flashes of explosions and the streaks of energy weapons. Ships on both sides were being torn apart, their debris drifting silently through space. In the midst of the chaos, Major Jack Reeves and his Phantom team continued their mission aboard the Denobulan flagship. The Phantoms moved with deadly efficiency, planting charges, sabotaging systems, and eliminating any Denobulan forces that got in their way. As they made their way to the heart of the ship, they encountered fierce resistance from the Denobulan guards. The corridor erupted in a storm of weapons fire as the Phantoms fought their way through. The Denobulan commander, a towering figure in ornate armor, bellowed orders as he unleashed a barrage of plasma fire. But the Phantoms were well-trained and well-equipped. They returned fire with deadly precision, their shots finding the gaps in the Denobulan armor. The commander fell, his body crumpling to the ground as the Phantoms pushed forward. They reached the ship's main power core, where Sergeant Elena Ramirez planted the final charge. "Charges set, sir," Ramirez reported over the comms. "We're ready to blow this thing sky high." Reeves nodded, his voice calm and steady. "Good work. Let's get out of here." The Phantoms made their way back to the extraction point, where their dropship was waiting. As they boarded, Ramirez activated the charges, and the Denobulan flagship was rocked by a series of explosions. The ship's systems failed, and it began to drift helplessly in space. Back in Earth orbit, Lieutenant Emma Vance and her squadron continued their relentless assault on the Denobulan fleet. Their advanced targeting systems locked onto the enemy's exposed reactors, and with each press of the trigger, more Denobulan ships were reduced to smoldering wreckage. But even as they tasted the first hints of victory, Vance knew that the fight was far from over. The Denobulans were regrouping, their remaining ships forming up for a final desperate assault. "Commander Dixon, this is Vance," she called over the comms. "The Denobulans are regrouping. They're going to make a final push." Dixon's voice crackled through the comms. "Understood, Lieutenant. Hold the line. We're almost there." In the command center, Dixon watched the tactical displays as the Denobulan fleet made its final approach. He knew that this was the moment of truth. If they could hold off the Denobulans for just a little longer, they might have a chance to turn the tide of the battle. The Denobulan ships advanced, their weapons blazing as they closed in on Earth's defenses. But Earth's defenders were ready. Dixon had coordinated a concentrated counterattack, focusing all of their remaining firepower on the lead ships of the Denobulan fleet. The result was devastating. The lead Denobulan ships were obliterated, their hulks drifting lifelessly through space. The remaining Denobulan forces, now leaderless and disorganized, were thrown into chaos. Earth's defenders seized the opportunity and pressed their advantage, driving the Denobulans back. As the battle raged on, an unexpected ally emerged from within the Denobulan ranks. Princess Zara, sickened by her father's arrogance and cruelty, had been silently working against him. She had seen the folly of her father's actions and had come to believe that humanity was not the enemy her father made them out to be. Zara accessed the ship's weapon systems and, with a heavy heart, targeted her father's battle form. The energy blast caught King Corvus completely off guard, disabling his cybernetic enhancements and leaving him vulnerable. Commander Dixon, seizing the moment, launched a final assault on the Denobulan flagship. With the enemy leader incapacitated, the remaining Denobulan forces quickly fell into disarray. Earth's defenders pressed their advantage, driving the invaders back and securing a hard-won victory. As the dust settled, Princess Zara contacted Commander Dixon, offering the unconditional surrender of the Denobulan forces. She revealed the full extent of her father's folly and the dark forces that had manipulated him into launching the invasion. Dixon, wary but hopeful, agreed to a truce, and the two sides began to work together to rebuild what had been lost. The battle was over, but the scars it left behind would take time to heal. Earth had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. Thousands of lives had been lost, and the damage to the planet's infrastructure was severe. Yet in the face of such devastation, humanity had proven its resilience once again. They had stood together against an overwhelming force and had emerged triumphant. As Earth's leaders began the long process of rebuilding, They knew that they could not afford to rest on their laurels. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and there were still many threats out there that could bring humanity to its knees. But they also knew that as long as they stood together, there was nothing they could not overcome. As the years passed, humanity's alliance with the Denobulans grew stronger. Princess Zara, now the ruler of her people, worked closely with Earth to promote peace and cooperation throughout the galaxy. Together, they forged a new era of prosperity and unity, one in which all species could thrive. And though the memory of the battle for Earth would never fade, it served as a reminder of the strength and determination that defined humanity. No matter the odds, they would always fight for their home, their people, and their future. As the years passed, the galaxy gradually began to heal from the scars of war. The alliance between Earth and the Denobulans became a cornerstone of a new era of interstellar cooperation, with Princess Zara leading her people with wisdom and compassion. Under her guidance, the Denobulans transformed from a warlike empire into a beacon of peace and innovation. Zara's efforts to atone for her father's crimes earned her the respect and admiration of not only her own people, but of countless other civilizations that had once feared the Denobulan Empire. On Earth, the rebuilding process was long and arduous, but the resilience of humanity shone through. Cities devastated by orbital bombardments were rebuilt stronger than before, and the scars of battle served as a constant reminder of the sacrifices made to protect their world. The United Nations, now a true representation of a united Earth, worked tirelessly to ensure that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. They established the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, a coalition of human and alien forces dedicated to maintaining peace and security throughout the galaxy. Commander Dixon, now an admiral, played a key role in shaping the new military strategies that would safeguard the peace. His experience during the war made him a revered figure, and his counsel was sought by leaders from across the galaxy. Under his leadership, the Galactic Peacekeeping Force became a formidable deterrent against any who would threaten the fragile peace that had been achieved. But despite the outward calm, Dixon could not shake the feeling that something darker was lurking just beyond the horizon. The war with the Denobulans had revealed to him the existence of forces that operated in the shadows, manipulating events for their own inscrutable purposes. He had seen firsthand the corruption that had spread through the highest echelons of Denobulan society, and he knew that similar threats could still be lurking in the shadows of other worlds. Zara, too, was haunted by the past. Although she had successfully led her people through the transition from empire to ally, she could not forget the role her father had played in the suffering of so many. She dedicated herself to uncovering and dismantling the remnants of the dark influence that had manipulated her father. In secret, she formed a covert team of specialists from various species, all sworn to root out corruption and tyranny wherever it might be found. This team operated outside the constraints of the newly formed galactic alliances, answering only to Zara herself. Their mission was simple: to ensure that no force would ever again have the power to plunge the galaxy into war. As Zara's team delved deeper into the underbelly of the galaxy, they began to uncover disturbing evidence of a vast conspiracy that stretched back millennia. Ancient records hinted at the existence of a powerful entity, known only as the Harbinger, which had been subtly influencing the course of galactic history for eons. This entity had sown chaos and discord among civilizations, feeding off the conflict it created. The Harbinger was a being of pure malevolence, and its ultimate goal was to bring about the complete and utter destruction of all sentient life in the galaxy. The deeper Zara's team dug, the more dangerous their mission became. They uncovered evidence of secret cults that worshipped the Harbinger, their members hidden in positions of power across countless worlds. These cults had been working for generations to prepare the galaxy for the Harbinger's return, and they would stop at nothing to see their dark god's will fulfilled. Zara knew that time was running out. The Harbinger's influence was growing stronger, and if it was not stopped, the entire galaxy would be plunged into an era of darkness from which there would be no return. She reached out to Admiral Dixon, knowing that she could not face this threat alone. Dixon, who had long suspected that something like the Harbinger existed, immediately agreed to help. Together, they began to formulate a plan to expose and destroy the Harbinger before it could bring its apocalyptic vision to fruition. The first step was to gather allies. Zara and Dixon knew that they could not confront the Harbinger with brute force alone. They needed the support of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Zara used her influence to bring together a secret council of leaders from across the galaxy, each sworn to fight against the Harbinger's influence. Among them were the Zirians, a race of highly advanced beings who had once been neutral in the conflicts of the galaxy, but were now fully committed to the cause of preserving peace. The Council's efforts were not without resistance. The Harbinger's cults, long entrenched in positions of power, began to strike back. Assassination attempts, sabotage, and misinformation campaigns were launched against the Council members and their allies. But the Council was undeterred. With Zara and Dixon at the helm, they began to unravel the Harbinger's web of influence, exposing its agents and cutting off its sources of power. As the Council's efforts gained momentum, the Harbinger itself began to stir. Zara's team discovered that the entity was not a single being, but rather a collective consciousness spread across multiple dimensions. This made it nearly impossible to confront directly. However, they also learned that the Harbinger was vulnerable in one key area. It required a physical anchor to manifest in the material universe. Without this anchor, the Harbinger could not fully unleash its destructive power. The Council's new mission was clear. They needed to find and destroy the Harbinger's anchor before it could complete its return. This task was easier said than done. The Harbinger's anchor was hidden in a remote and heavily fortified system, protected by the most fanatical of its followers. The Council's fleets prepared for what would be the most dangerous mission they had ever undertaken. The plan was to strike quickly and decisively, using the element of surprise to their advantage. But even with the best-laid plans, there were no guarantees. As the combined fleets of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force and their allies gathered for the final assault, tensions ran high. Everyone knew that this battle would determine the fate of the galaxy. The Harbinger's forces were well prepared and their defenses were formidable. The Council's fleet would have to fight their way through wave after wave of fanatical cultists and automated defenses just to reach the system's core, where the Harbinger's anchor was located. As the battle commenced, Zara led the charge, her flagship at the forefront of the assault. The fighting was brutal, with ships on both sides being torn apart by the sheer intensity of the conflict. The space around the system's core was a maelstrom of fire and debris, with ships weaving and dodging through the chaos as they tried to reach their target. Dixon, commanding the second wave of the assault, coordinated the fleet's efforts, ensuring that no opportunity was missed and no ship was left unsupported. The Council's forces fought with unparalleled determination, knowing that the fate of everything they held dear was on the line. After hours of relentless fighting, Zara's team finally reached the system's core. There they found the Harbinger's anchor, an ancient, massive structure pulsing with malevolent energy. The structure was surrounded by a powerful force field, and it was clear that conventional weapons would not be enough to destroy it. Zara and her team knew that they would have to disable the force field from within the structure itself. This meant boarding the anchor, fighting their way through its defenses, and planting explosive charges at key points within the structure. The boarding party, led by Zara herself, consisted of the best soldiers and specialists from the Council's allied forces. As they made their way through the dark, labyrinthine corridors of the anchor, they encountered all manner of traps and defenses designed to stop them. Automated turrets, energy barriers, and fanatical cultists fought to halt their progress. But Zara's team was relentless, using their superior tactics and technology to overcome each obstacle in their path. They fought their way to the heart of the structure, where the control systems for the force field were located. It was there that they encountered the Harbinger's most dangerous creation, a monstrous, biomechanical guardian designed to protect the anchor at all costs. The Guardian was a terrifying fusion of organic and synthetic components with immense strength and resilience. It took everything Zara's team had to bring the creature down, using a combination of advanced weaponry and sheer determination. After a fierce battle, they finally succeeded in destroying the Guardian, but not without heavy losses. With the Guardian defeated, Zara's team quickly set about disabling the force field. Working together, they hacked into the anchor's control systems and planted the explosive charges at strategic points throughout the structure. As the charges were armed and the team prepared to evacuate, Zara took one last look at the anchor. She knew that destroying it would mean the end of the Harbinger's threat, but she also knew that it would come at a great cost. The structure was ancient and powerful, and its destruction would likely cause a massive energy surge that could potentially destabilize the entire system. But there was no other choice. The Harbinger had to be stopped no matter the cost. With a heavy heart, Zara gave the order to detonate the charges. The team quickly evacuated the anchor, returning to their ships just as the charges went off. The resulting explosion was cataclysmic. The anchor was obliterated, and the shockwave from the blast tore through the surrounding space, destroying the remaining Harbinger forces and sending debris flying in all directions. The system's core began to collapse, triggering a chain reaction that caused the entire system to implode. The Council's fleet, warned of the impending collapse, quickly retreated to a safe distance. As they watched the system implode, they knew that the Harbinger's threat had finally been ended. The battle was over and the galaxy was safe. But the cost had been high. Thousands of lives had been lost, and entire fleets had been decimated. The victory was bittersweet, and the survivors knew that the scars of this conflict would take a long time to heal. But they also knew that they had faced down a threat unlike any other, and had emerged victorious. As the Council members gathered to commemorate their fallen comrades, they made a solemn vow. They would never forget the sacrifices made in the name of peace, and they would remain vigilant against any future threats to the galaxy. Zara, now a hero to both her people and the galaxy at large, returned to Denobula to continue leading her people into a new era of peace and cooperation. Her experience during the battle against the Harbinger had changed her, deepening her resolve to ensure that such a threat would never again endanger the galaxy. She redoubled her efforts to promote unity and understanding among the galaxy's many species, knowing that only through cooperation could they hope to face the challenges of the future. Admiral Dixon, too, found himself forever changed by the events of the war. He continued to serve as a guiding force within the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, using his experience to shape the strategies that would protect the galaxy from future threats. He knew that the galaxy would always be a dangerous place, but he also knew that as long as there were people willing to stand up and fight for what was right, there was hope. Years passed, and the galaxy slowly began to recover from the devastation of the war. The Council's efforts to promote peace and cooperation bore fruit, leading to a period of unprecedented prosperity and stability. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force became a symbol of unity, with its members drawn from every corner of the galaxy. Under Zara's leadership, the Denobulans continued to play a key role in maintaining this peace, proving that even a once-feared empire could become a force for good. But even as the galaxy thrived, Dixon and Zara never forgot the lessons of the past. They knew that peace was fragile and that vigilance was necessary to protect it. Together, they worked to ensure that the galaxy remained united against any threat, be it from within or without. And though they knew that the Harbinger's threat had been vanquished, they also knew that there would always be new challenges to face. As the years turned into decades, the story of the battle against the Harbinger became legend. It was told and retold across the galaxy, a tale of courage, sacrifice, and the indomitable spirit of those who fought to protect their worlds. The names of Zara, Dixon, and the countless others who had played a role in the conflict became synonymous with heroism and determination. And as the galaxy moved forward, the memory of their deeds served as a reminder of the strength that could be found in unity. In the end, the galaxy was a better place for having faced the Harbinger. The alliances forged in the heat of battle endured, creating a network of cooperation and trust that spanned the stars. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force continued to stand as a guardian of this peace, ever vigilant against the threats that might one day arise. And though the scars of the past remained, they were a testament to the resilience and determination of those who had fought to protect their worlds. As Zara and Dixon looked out at the stars, they knew that the galaxy was in good hands. They had done their part to ensure its safety, and they were confident that future generations would continue to uphold the values they had fought for. The galaxy would always be a place of wonder and danger, but as long as there were people willing to stand together in the face of adversity, there was nothing they could not overcome. And so, the story of the Harbinger's defeat became a chapter in the ongoing saga of the galaxy, a tale of triumph in the face of impossible odds, and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope.